All right, I am back. No ads yet? Oh, that's weird. It says it's almost done. Twitch is weird and fun. But it did say that there's now 60 minutes of no advertisements supposed to be guaranteed for what is it called? Anybody coming in. You hope they get to monetize next time? Yeah, I mean, theoretically, somebody coming in will now, oh yeah, pre-roll off for 59 minutes and 43 seconds. So that's a nice thing. Mythol, hello. How are you doing today? I am so confused by the advertisement system and Twitch. It's so, like, there's no way for me to know. Like, I wish that there was like something where I can see like, oh, X% of people are in an ad. Like, that would make so much more sense. But there's no, I don't really see much about that. Okay, but anyways, theoretically, everybody's done with their ads, and we're back. So let's change the stream title. We're now making, so creating a course on Docker. So update for you, and then I need to update YouTube. Okay, so creating a course Docker. I'm curious, for those of you watching, do you see that updated, that the title updated, or do you have to refresh to see the title? Obviously, it doesn't matter for you. You know we're starting to make Docker now, but everybody else, I think, will now, like, if they come past the stream, it'll show Docker. We're working on that. All right, so this was Docker course. Okay, it's updated. Nice. All right, so we have Docker course. I'm creating my own Docker. Yeah. Also, Limanox, hello. Did I say I'm creating my own Docker? Oh, creating a course on Docker. Perfect. Okay. And updated in YouTube too. Thank you both. All right. So let's see. I want to go. I have like a course things. Oh, we have lessons. I have course articles. I think it was course articles. Oh, yeah. So we're going to take one Docker. This is going to be an introduction to Docker. Or maybe I should say Docker for what do you think? Docker for web developers? Introduction to Docker? Good do use with the code crafters class. Oh yeah, that would be interesting too, because there is the build your own Docker in that. Oh yeah, they would absolutely let me do that. So far they've been really awesome in that they're gonna let me do pretty much whatever I want, as long as it encourages people to like go and check them out. They seem to be okay with it. So far I've like the partnership side of things from my end has been really good. I think like as long as I don't like try to take away from them, they're gonna be okay with it. You do Golang, Python, and Rust, and you stream Golang on Twitch. Nice. How do you like Go? I've heard really good things about Go. Docker for beginner web devs. Okay, let's see. Docker for web development? Something like that. Intermediate Docker. Well, let's see how it is. Then I'll ask you all if you think that it's intermediate or beginner. I'm not going to get into at least a lot of the advanced stuff in Docker. It's been too long since I've used it that I don't feel confident like teaching some of that. But getting going with it, definitely, we're gonna be able to do that. Docker intro wasn't enough to get you through all the self-hosting stuff. Oh, okay, interesting. Well, you can let me know what things I'm missing. So here's let's go into like our topics. So things that I want to be able to cover in this. Let's see, topics. Do I want that? What is it called? It's standards. Standards. Okay, so a standard would be, you had to rewrite an ETL pipeline recently where I was doing nearly 970 million requests. Golang wait groups saved your life. You're rewriting your crappy startup in Golang from JavaScript full stack. Nice. It's always nice to be able to like actually switch to a technology and do a rebuild and like significant improvement happens. That's always a good feeling. So excellent. That's good to hear. Okay, so let's see. We have Docker for web development standards. Okay, so for these standards, obviously we have like let's see if I need to remember exactly how standards work. Standards work with, they are a tangible thing that you can do by the end of the thing. So that's something that's a measurable thing that you know how to do, but it can be like a like slightly vague, but still something you can do. So you can like install Docker on your computer. You can find, so we can find Docker images. So images to like find images on Docker Hub. We can run an image. So not just like run an image, like find, maybe we could find a Postgres image on Docker Hub. Run Postgres database locally with Docker. Rust would probably be faster, but Rust is very expensive to write. It's expensive. It's super interesting. I recently read a white paper, which I think I saved somewhere, but I don't remember where I saved it, so that's not helpful. That Rust is more expensive. Like if we're looking at like the developer time, Rust is more expensive on the first pass through for something. But if you add in bug fixes, so like if you basically say, okay, you're writing your code and then you deploy it and then you have to come back and revisit it afterwards. If you have like the entire life cycle of that like project in mind, Rust becomes cheaper, but only after you consider all the other things that have to happen afterwards, which is super fascinating because so most places only think about, okay, it's like once you hit deploy and it's out there, that's the end. You stop keeping track of the money part of it. And they didn't say it was not just Rust; it was Rust and other memory safe languages, which a lot of garbage collected languages are memory safe. So therefore, that would also be in there too. Run Postgres database locally with Docker. Okay, so we run the Postgres database. So obviously we can connect. Then we like, okay, so we have Postgres running locally. So maybe this is, actually all together, right? So we have install Docker in your computer, run Postgres database locally on Docker, because you have to go find it, you have to install it, you have to pull it, you have to run it. Okay, that's all on its own, right? Then also, you press X on that though. We have Rust project running, VoIP system, not that easy to bug fix. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, that's probably why we need more studies on it and more people running it to find out more how it is. So that's super interesting. I have one Rust thing in production for myself, which is the my LMS, and it so far has not been any harder than any other thing to do bug fixes to when I found it. So it's like I don't feel that it's that much like better than something else, except for the fact that obviously I learned more Rust building it. Mythal, do I prefer Zellij or Tmux? Right now I prefer Zellij. Mostly because I like this type of stuff. I am dyslexic, and so I tend to forget keyboard commands, and having the reference there is like really nice for my brain. What I wish that I could do is hide them and then have them show up when I on demand. I wish that I could do that, but so far I don't think that that adds it in there. Oh, and the other thing is, because I know I can get that with Tmux. The other thing is, I really love default, like not having to deviate from defaults very much. I think I overdid that when I was a sysadmin, and now I just don't want to like configure anything anymore. It's I don't know. That's maybe not be a good habit, but that's where I am right now. Oh, your system is very big though. It's at your day job. Okay, that also makes sense. Like there's probably certain points of time where it doesn't matter how memory safe your thing is, your like language is. It's going to suck once it reaches a certain size. I am convinced, but I have no proof or evidence or even knowledge about how to fix this, that building smaller module-based systems, so not microservices. I think that there's something between microservices and monoliths. That's where I think that the sweet spot is. When you're doing a big project in Rust, you have to do unsafe no matter what, especially with FFI. Well, yeah, FFI really sucks for unsafe type stuff. I'm with you for that. Okay. Install Docker on your computer, run Postgres database locally with Docker. Oh, and new devs get confused because of Rust. That's another thing, is that we need way more devs learning Rust in order for Rust to become the top choice. It's the reason why it's very difficult for me to recommend that a company starts using Rust unless they really know what they're getting into. Because like, well, if you have to onboard a bunch of devs, your velocity is going to dip quite a bit before it climbs back up, and that sucks. Like the business side is going to be livid unless that they're in on it. That's the key, is like you need to have somebody at the C level who's going to back you up onto like making those choices, which generally means that only a software dev is like a CEO is gonna like go with it. And there's very few of those, unfortunately. I guess you can call me a CEO. I'm a CEO of my own LLS. LLC. I'm a CEO of a one-person company. Okay, so install a Docker on your computer, run Postgres database locally with Docker. Okay, so we run, so that's basically, we run Postgres locally with Docker. Okay, so we connect to it. So that would include like the ports and all the other stuff with that. And volumes. I want to connect to a running Docker instance container. Oh, something else. Okay, so connect to a running Docker container. Maybe even before the Postgres is like run Docker container in interactive mode. That would probably be, oh, wait, why? Why did that come, why did that put that over there? That's silly, Helix. Why did you do that? Oh, you're also CEO too. Nice, but you choose Golang for your startup. Your day job has Rust, C, and Python. Nice. Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense to use Go because it's so fast to get into. There's a ton of developers that know it, and it's really easy to pivot with. So like that makes a lot of sense. VS Code in whatever remote development option. Your VS Code set up on your Axum. Oh yeah. Connect like okay. Set up VS Code to work with Docker. I know that Microsoft has put a ton of Docker stuff inside of VS Code that I have not paid attention to, and at least because I use terminal-based stuff. So that's good. You're not good enough to make your Rust faster than Golang. Golang is so fast out of the box. I think that's one of the things is that like speed is not necessarily like, you know, this as a founder, you don't like, nobody cares about speed. Like nobody cares that your thing runs fast unless it's running slow. They care about it running slow. They don't care about it running fast. Developers care about it running fast because, you know, we're using it all the time, and like we can see it, like, oh, we could see how we can make it faster, and that's like, it's kind of fun to solve those problems, but that's not going to help the users at all. If things like run fast enough, that's good enough. You built your prototype in JS, it got to 500 users and it getting expensive. 500 users is great. Congratulations on that. That's a good problem to have, and that like lets you know, hey, we're on to something. Will, hello, welcome back. Okay, so we set up VS Code to work with Docker. What other things do we, okay, so what other things in here do we have before we start doing Docker Compose stuff? You know what I'm going to do? We're going to Docker and take a look at the help. So, okay, we have run, we have exec. Oh, let's see. So install Docker. So this is going to be like PS. So install Docker on your computer. Okay, so maybe I want, so run a Docker container. So that I basically just want to run a Docker, like run a Docker container at all. So maybe like pull Docker container, pull Docker container, which means then we can do a list Docker containers. We want list Docker images. I wonder if I wanted to like break this out into different sections. So basic Docker. So this can be like install Docker computer, pull Docker container. So list the Docker, so pull Docker image. We want to then list the Docker images that we have out. We want to run a, like, create a container from an image. List the containers. Stop a container. Delete a container. Delete an image. So that's like super, super basic, right? All right. You can use how to point GitHub code space to a Docker compose file and get it running. Oh yeah, so you know what? That's probably an extra course. GitHub code spaces. I love GitHub code spaces, especially since like it's free. For, like, you don't get very many code spaces to work with, but like just having it for free a little bit, infinite, like so much goodness there. I don't know what words I want to use, but like it's really, really, really good. Yeah, you can push your own image. You feel like Microsoft stole that from Docker, the company itself? I don't know. Steal feels like a strong word there. It just feels more like it's the natural progression for what they want to do, and it just is good. And they're doing a clone thing with code spaces plus dev containers maintained by Microsoft. Yeah, I think they're doing a bunch of stuff with Kubernetes behind the scenes to make that work. Also teach how to build and push container image to your private registry. Oh, so I've never done a private registry. So that'd be fun. So okay, so we have like a private registry stuff. That would probably, you know what? Private registry is going to be, I'm going to add that in as its own thing. So Docker with private registry. I'm gonna say, okay, so GitHub code spaces, this can be an LMS and YouTube thing. Docker with private registry can be probably an LMS and YouTube thing. Probably both. Yeah, using on ancient hardware is like, that's one of the biggest things, that if you can't purchase a really nice computer, but you have a decent enough internet connection, code spaces is the way to go. Wait, seems so loud. Is that my voice or? It would be nice to do a non-Microsoft reliant approach. This is how I came to use Docker containers regularly in your workflow though. Yeah, I guess like code spaces are great for this type of stuff. All of the other things are a little bit too advanced for what this course is going to be. Oh, the terminal multiplexer that I'm using. Yes, this is called Zellij. It is loud for like these type of things. I wish that I could turn these off, but then like have a key to bring them back. That would be really nice. Visually it's so loud. Yeah, I generally tend to ignore the top and the bottom, and my mind, like my eye has gotten like really close to, really used to like looking at that. But this is called Zellij. And you can turn these off. You can absolutely not have them here. And I think they have different themes too. I can't remember. I haven't looked at it for a while. Jellies? No, it's a Zellij. Like that. You do like how you can see the commands? Yeah, exactly. I like to be able to see the commands because I also forget them. And also like being able to see that, oh, I've locked it is super nice because I've done that before where I've locked it, or worse yet, I have like entered into like search or something, and then the next thing you know is like, what the heck have I done? And then I'm screwed. Except I can look down here and see it. Okay, so connect to running Docker contain. Okay, so if I just were to do, I mean, this is really just like, we're just gonna go through the common commands, right? So common command stuff. We're gonna have like install prerequisites. Install Docker. Okay, but once we get there, I want to pull a Docker image, run a container. Yeah, let's change this to run a container, list the images, list the containers, stop a container, delete an image. This should probably go into a different section. So we're gonna have your own Docker, essentially. So then we're gonna be like Docker file. Okay, so run exec to connect to a running Docker container. Let's put that in there. Yes, okay, so build goes down here, pull, push, your own Docker. Okay, then we're gonna do into connect to Docker Hub, push to Docker Hub. Again, log out, search, who cares about that, version, info, okay. Builder. I think I've not used most of these. Like, you don't generally need most of these either. Build X. So compose. Then okay, you're down Docker. Your own Docker. Okay, so then automations, like maybe grouping. So this is, oh, control B to hide. Wait, what did I do? That's not hiding it. That's doing something. I don't. What is that doing? It's like showing, it's highlighting stuff that I'm doing. I have no. Okay, well that's not what I want. It hides on your config. Okay, so I must have. I wonder. I like grabbed this from somewhere and I using it for different things and bind B. Oh, switch to mode normal. That's what it is. I have B switch to mode normal. I would need, okay, so I wonder if is there a hide? Okay, I would need to add in to do that. I've sort of like customized this a little bit. So yeah. Okay, so your own Docker, and then Docker Compose would be about creating an entire ecosystem in Docker, right? So, like a project in Docker, essentially. And so this would be compose file. Okay, so volumes. So, okay, if I were to do my own Docker, so Docker file, connect to Docker, so networking, volumes. Oh, binding. Logging. Exposing ports. Restarting. I think that would be it, right? So, Blah, are you here with this? Let's see. Interactive mode. Do I have interactive mode? Okay, so prerequisites. Maybe we can have it part of this is like we're gonna set maybe instead of prerequisites, this would be like intro. Like maybe first steps. It's like set up VS Code to work with Docker. Didn't know it has SBOM capabilities. Did I miss I forget what SBOM stands for. SBOM, view the packaged based software. Oh, software bill of materials. Right, okay. Interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. I don't think I've ever looked into that either. I don't think I've ever needed it. Yeah, like set up entire Axon project in Docker with Rust, Postgres, maybe a little bit of Redis for, yeah. So, okay, so we have all of these. It's like we have the project in Docker, and then we have like challenges, right? So challenges would be something like set up a full set up an API, set up an Axum API with a Postgres database. So that would be two containers, right? We have Axum and we have Postgres, and they sort of need to connect together. Yeah, port mapping. So I have that, right? Exposing ports. It is super confusing to beginners, and I just saw I saw a tweet of somebody who accidentally exposed their Postgres database when they first set it up to the internet, when it was supposed to be a private instance through Docker, and it got what was it? It got encrypted. It got hacked and encrypted. Which that's always fun. Okay, so we have first steps set up, common commands. Oh yes, faster than Lime. That's what it happened to, faster than Lime. It can happen to anybody. It's super easy to do because like there's so many different things. It's hard to keep it all in mind. And I mean, that's the reason why you hire a systems administrator, is because their job is to keep on top of that stuff. And I used to be a systems administrator, but I'm not like on top of it anymore because it's a full-time job to stay on top of it. Just to be aware of that can happen. Okay, your own Docker. So this is like then we're building our own Docker stuff, right? So like here is first steps. This is all going to be about getting set up with Docker. So I guess like we're gonna have to pull Docker image down here, run a container, and that's probably it. Like, I want to do that as part of first steps, right? It's like we're going to install Docker, set up VS Code to work with Docker, pull a Docker image, run a container, and maybe once we have the container, then you can connect to the container from VS Code, which I believe is something that you can do. But it's been a while since I've looked at VS Code with Docker. In first steps, you could do an optional module making it a dev container. You mean for like development work? My plan was then to do like in here. So like basically daily Docker. Oh, distinguishing between a dev and a prod image. Yeah, so here, let's do deving with Docker. And then we can have prodding with Docker. Is that terrible? is that horrible? Prodding with Podman. Oh, I have not used Podman. I've heard good things about it, but then also like forever it didn't work on Mac at all. So like I just didn't look at it. At a workplace, our build image was a real arcane process. It downloaded a ton of stuff to build the binary. It starts with a piece, so clearly it's good for prod. Yeah, exactly. There we go. Nix instead of Docker. Oh wait, you're using Nix instead of Docker? I have not used Nix, but I've met somebody who's on the Nix maintenance team, like the people who like make Nix, and it seems like a really interesting tool, and like he does all sorts of cool stuff with it, but I don't think most of our stuff needs something like that. I've met somebody that used Nix. They're like people that use Arch. Yeah, it kind of does feel like, okay, we use that thing, so now we have to talk about it as much as possible to let people know that we're using it. I don't know if it's like an Arch type thing, but it definitely feels like a, okay, I like, you know, we have to talk about it. Mostly to sell it, to sell like, hey, you should use this too. It's awesome. And it does seem to be, it solves like some really, really, really important problems. But it doesn't solve every problem, or at least I don't think it's the right tool for every job. Okay, so Devin with Docker. So list the Docker images. So you know what? If we're deving with Docker, this also goes up here. List our containers goes up here. Stop container. So basically just so these type of things. Okay, then up here we're gonna bind. Okay, so deving with Docker, what does that really mean? That means we're gonna run our code locally. So we're going to expose some ports, we're gonna bind, we're going to look at logs, we're gonna be able to restart it constantly, we're gonna be able to go into interactive mode with it. What else do we need to do with deving for it? Oh, we need to be able to do the networking stuff. So we need networking, we need volumes, we need our own Docker files, and potentially we need to push this to Docker Hub too, so that other developers on our teams can access it. Long time ago, I used to use Mac, and then you stopped. All your problems stopped. Well, I mean, that's one way to do it. You know what doesn't solve many problems? Homebrew. You got 99 problems, and they're all because of Homebrew. That being said, 4.0 might have actually fixed a number of your gripes with Homebrew just as you move back to Windows. The thing that irks me the most, and it happened all the time when I was as a student. So most of our students when I was teaching would have Macs, mostly because the school required them. So they would come in with a Mac. Okay, great. We had them install Homebrew because all the alternatives suck, at least for like new beginners, like working with the terminal. So they started like installing stuff. It's great. And then it's like, okay, time to deploy. So we'd get them set up with VPSs, and that's all Linux based. And the first thing that they do, if I wasn't fast enough to get to them and like tell them about apt or yum, depending upon their operating system of choice for the VPS, they installed Homebrew for Linux, which I cannot stand. I do not like Homebrew for Linux. You built your own distro with well, yeah, I mean, when you build your own distro type stuff, like it's super customized for your own thing, which can be really good. It can also be time consuming. Okay, I have my prod with Docker experience is running things on like ECS, which is not that different from dev type stuff. So what would we want to see in well, I guess like, oh, Docker, okay, Docker Compose goes in here too. Okay, so these are all individual type things that we can build up with them. What goes into prodding with Docker? One of the things you absolutely hate about Homebrew is that they have no concept of pinning casks, which means you can't block Vagrant from updating. Yeah, there's a lot of things that Homebrew doesn't have that would be really nice for them to have. Yeah. which kind of sucks. That definitely sucks. If you think the whole incremental build idea, we used EaseArcher, takes a week to build and test. We update every 2 years, no problem. How do you do an incremental update for Docker stuff? Because like each image is its own thing. Oh yeah, prodding with Docker. So there is Docker in GitHub Actions. ECS is way too complex for me to teach as part of this, because like ECS, then like I would have to teach so much stuff just to get it working. Docker to Kubernetes. No, wait. No, that's K3s. What's K3s? Or is that mistyped K8s? I see the K and like a number and I immediately think Kubernetes. Not ease. Yeah, something like that. There's a wrong way to write Docker files that are meant to be built over and over and over again. Yeah, Elastic Container Service. So I use that for deploying Docker images. So I have currently in production for Brooks builds, I have my Hasura backend API running in that. At the company that I've worked at, I've done basically several different things. Like if it's just like a backend, I like to throw it into ECS if possible. It's costing you $1,200 per month. Okay, I have it basically set to the bare minimum using Fargate, and that's the cheapest that I found. It's only costing me a few dollars per month. Like maybe $7.50 or so per thing that I put out there. I agree with that. The A11Y is the least accessible way to spell accessibility. It's trying to get all the hip young kids into accessibility. So we have to speak in elite speak. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so if it's starting to cost a lot of money, I'm curious about what you're planning on doing to cheapen that up, and like where the money is, like, because like you can look at the billing thing and like find out exactly where all the money going. If it really is ECS itself, there's some strategies that you can do to sort of like break things out. Yeah, like what Blah is saying, like if it's a lot of compute and RAM. And this is why I want to do an AWS course, because like I feel I can do an AWS course for developers, and it would be like, you're not going to get a certificate from this, but you're just going to do your job. That's because that's what most people really care about. Bandwidth and compute. Bandwidth sucks. Bandwidth is a pretty harsh one. Compute. Oh, let's see. Compute. Yeah, with Fargate, if I remember correctly, you don't really get much of a choice in what type of system it runs on. But what you could do is, instead of using Fargate, you could use you could still use the self-hosted runners. Self-hosted runners is maybe a little bit weird. It's like you run on EC2, you put a runner in there, and then instead of Fargate where it spins up one, it like uses one of those. So you can basically control an EC2 instance, and then you know they're going to run. It's going to put all your Docker containers on there instead, and like spin those up and down across them. You can control how many you have, and the most important part, you can prepay. Because with AWS, all the cost savings come from prepaying for their services for 1 or 2 years. And then you can get like 75% discounts by doing that. It's pretty crazy. It's like time tracking with screenshots. You have high RPS and high compute for encrypting. Oh, you're doing like a lot of encrypting stuff? Oh yeah, that sucks. If it's, yeah, it gets, those are, there's a reason why microservices have gotten big, and it's because of cost. Because like you can basically break out the part that's really expensive and then have it do only that one thing over there, and then you can spin that up and then immediately spin it back down again. So that way it takes like it's expensive for like a second and then back off, and then it expensive and then off. But like if it's a slow system because you're like, for example, doing encryption in JavaScript, then yeah, I can totally see that that's going to suck for that. Software engineering, hello, happy new year. You did write the encryption app in Rust and used it in Node with NappyRS and the FF5 node, but it's still costing you. Yeah, that might be like, I'm curious if you broke that out into its own system and ran that separately with a queuing service. You think that, yeah, you think that serverless, not microsystems? Like, I think that the terms for it don't really matter that much. Its own thing, right? Its own like separate instance like that lives over there. I really dislike the terms that people have come up with for like serverless and microsystems. Like they don't make any sense. They're just confusing. Okay, so we have Docker and GitHub Actions. I guess we can do profiles in Docker Compose files. It's like one for production and one for development. That's if you want to use Docker Compose for something like that. Should we use, I haven't done with anything with DigitalOcean for a while. We could do something with DigitalOcean. If you're doing hobby stuff, you can host on GitHub pages. Yes, that's very true. You can do, you get something like 10,000 free minutes per month on GitHub Actions for open source projects. Maybe not even open source. Like you get, there's a significant amount of time you get for free on an unpaid account on GitHub for GitHub Actions. You can completely and totally cheat the system and run stuff on GitHub Actions. You were the guy who figured out how to do crypto mining on GitHub Actions and made frameworks so GitHub was forced to make GitHub Actions better. Fun. Also, I hope that you don't make it so that they start charging for GitHub Actions, because that would suck. Please don't do that. Railway is a service you might weigh against DigitalOcean. You can, so DigitalOcean is nice because it's like $5 a month and you know that it's only $5 a month. I've used it before too, so like I'm familiar with it. GitHub Actions went Wild West a few years back. Okay, that's good to know. So let's see, profiles in Docker Compose, and then I guess like just running running your app in running your app on a VPS in Docker, like basically something like this. So would this solve your problem, blah? Like, am I missing something? You have GitHub Actions set up to keep your GitHub Actions running. That's a bit much. If I could use Tailscale to make that VPS my own system. What's Tailscale? Is that another VPS system, like a hosting service? If you don't commit to a repo in like 60 or 90 days, it disables the action, so you have a monthly action that commits an empty commit. Oh, okay. Interesting. I didn't know that. Oh, it just handles reverse tunneling. Oh, interesting. Are you talking about deployment? Are you talking about something like actually deploying out to, like, running a command on the VPS to do the equivalent of like a Docker pull and like a Docker restart to get things going again? What did I do? What did I do with that course? I did. Oh, I'm not even signed in here. Let's see. It was Brooks builds Docker DigitalOcean. Where's my, I need the playlist. No, that was choosing the vendor. Deploying. Let's see, what did I do with this one? I did that in did I deploy in Docker? It's been a long time. Oh no, this is just the static site. Choose VPS, creating. Wait, where's don't they usually give you like the playlist? Yeah, there it is. Creating droplets, creating admin user, preventing root from logging in, auto reboots, two-factor auth, multiplexing with SSH, doing the firewall thing. Okay, so we have, and part of this, we have like creating a deploy user for DigitalOcean. And then we have deploying manually, setting up Nginx, HTTPS, auto deploying with GitHub Actions. So I basically set up here in our Docker Compose file that it's going to SSH into the place here, and it's there's a command when that SSH runs that then just does one thing only. Let's see. Laminox, well, thank you for hanging out with us today, and have a good night.